welcome to the special episode of my new health and wellness series being featured on the Norfolk Community Television Station. On each episode, I will bring on thought-provoking guests in the local community who are elevating the lives of those around them through their work and practice. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce Amy Lynn to the show, who is a Reiki master and has been helping her clients for over 3 years now, and also is a boxing instructor, which is quite the combination. So that being said, thank you so much for joining us today, Amy.
Hi, thank you. Nice to be here.
Perfect. So for those who are not really that familiar, what is Reiki energy healing?
So for me, when I do the Reiki energy healing, we focus on all the chakras, and there's 7 main chakras. And we spend maybe 3 to 5 minutes over each chakra. And what it does is sometimes in life we get stuck. People say that all the time, I feel stuck. I believe a lot of it has to do with our energy and how all of our chakras are basically little wheels of energy, and we tend to hang on to stuff that's happened to us during our lifetimes, like trauma, stuff like that. It can get stuck in certain different places. Honestly, I'm still constantly learning about all of this. It's like this whole field of knowledge, and the Reiki helps us kind of shake that stuff up, bring it to the surface. You know what I mean? That's what happened with me when I first had Reiki, and I was really blown away, and I didn't know anything about it before I went into it. So it's definitely helped me.
What is a Reiki treatment looks like, or how is it performed?
So what I have is like a massage table. People stay fully clothed, and there's 2 different ways that I do it. Either like hands-on, very gentle, like on your over your chakra areas, or you kind of hover a little bit hands off. And I always start with kind of a hello and my hands on your shoulders. And from there, we go over each chakra. I start on the crown. We go over the third eye chakra, throat chakra, your heart, solar plexus, sacrum, and then the root chakra. And I kind of get a feel of like where you may need more energy. So Reiki kind of flows through me to you. I'm not actually like doing anything in particular. It's just flowing through me to you.
So I kind of relate it. It's like that constant life force that's all around us. I almost think of it like the force, like it's that like Yoda always talked about. And I think when you really think about it, it's really cool because it makes life way more interesting and inspiring to think that you're connected to something way more immersive and expansive than you ever could have imagined. I think
definitely
it's really fascinating. So that being said, what can someone expect after a Reiki session? Like, what are the side effects, if you want to call it that?
So I know every time I've gotten Reiki, it's always done a little bit differently. And so when I do it, I tend not to talk. I like my clients to come in and just have like 30 minutes to themselves just to kind of decompress, shut it down, unless I feel like there's a real big block and we need to work through it. A lot of people will have a release while we're doing the session, which may be crying or coughing. Everybody is different. After we go through the session, we talk about stuff that you may have felt, that I may have felt or seen. And I always like that part after, because it's interesting how things kind of connect. Like I might see certain images that connect to how you may be feeling, or something that you may be going through during your life at this time, or trying to let go of, or it's different for everybody. And the other thing I always like to say is, most of the times when the clients leave, they feel lighter, they feel really great. It's all that energy you were talking about. But sometimes a few days later, you may feel like all these things kind of coming to the surface. And I always tell everybody, whatever that is, try to embrace it, because this is how we get through it.
It seems like we store all of our emotions like in these energy centers, right? Mm-hmm. How does that relate to it's so cool, because you never think that, you get stressed out and you feel angry and you kind of feel it, but you don't think like a trauma from a past experience that happened maybe in this physical, in what we can perceive. Like we just see it as a thought. We don't really put value in how it can manifest into maybe disease or a physical ailment. Right. Like, what do you think Reiki teaches about us that people should like consider more about their health and how to address their emotions, like spot on, or be more mindful? your emotions?
So much of it is how we perceive what we're coming in contact with. Do you know, like if you, and I'm, like I said, I'm still learning so much about all of it because it kind of was, I kind of was like thrown into it. But I think when we, like if you have like a bad situation and the best thing that I can say is like, how can you change, like if it's a negative situation, into a positive? Because it affects every like little thought that you have that's negative affects us so differently than the positive. And it really can take a toll on us internally. So it's learning how to kind of live in the moment, I guess, which is really difficult for most of us to do because, you know, as a student, as a parent, you know, everybody just is so busy today. It's learning how to slow all of it down just a little bit and kind of focus on what you have right in front of you, you know, and making the best of what we have.
Yeah, to go off that, how do you try to stay fully present? Like for me, like I read I'm reading right now rather that transformative book, Power of Now, right? And I've read like Becoming Supernatural with Dr. Dispenza, and you hear about the present moment, how it's so important. But why is it so important? Like, I think the present moment is just thrown around these days by a lot of people, but why is it so important? Why is like, you know, because people want to like look at the past and reminisce on the good times, or people will focus on the future. And, you know, I gotta look at the future because I have all these bills to pay or this and that. So why is the present moment so important?
I think because when you start to focus on the future, obviously you do have to plan your day and all of that. But when we start to over focus on it, we kind of forget of where we are. I do it too. You know, everybody does. And I think, and like the boxing helps me with that too, because it kind of releases things that just, you know, I can't seem to get rid of in other ways, but you know, it might be running for somebody or whatever, but the combination of the two keeps me so grounded. And so, it's a constant reminder, I think, sometimes when life is so stressful, you know, you do have to kind of bring it back to yourself, to your core, what's important, like why am I so over focused on everything that's not in front of me? It just, when you think, you know, just for today, you know, I'm not going to be angry. I'm not going to, you know, be crazy stressed out. When you kind of keep bringing that back, you can live more in the moment and you can kind of enjoy, because we go through it and like I don't know about you, but like with all of this COVID-19, I'm like, God, the colors are so beautiful outside. The sky is so blue. The grass is so green. The flowers are so, I'm like, is that because we all just slowed down? You know, I think that's part of it.
Yeah, I think that's well said. How do you think you come across a lot of clients? What do you think are some common, maybe emotional things that you come across a lot? Maybe people have issues with communication, or people have low self-esteem. What are some common problems that you see, or what chakras do you think people should work on the most?
That's tough. Everybody is so different. I think I see a lot is self-love. A lot of people don't generally have that for themselves. You know, it might seem that way on the outside, but when you get down to the nitty-gritty, I think it's hard. People don't always have that. And that can be from anything, you know, from a past trauma, from how you were raised, or from how you were treated, you know. And this is something I always tell, you know, especially my kids too, is we may have been through something that was very difficult, but if you hang on to that, like you're going to keep reliving it in other areas of your life, learning from it and accepting it and saying, you know, that stunk, but maybe you went through it so that you can help somebody else go through it too. You know, once you kind of flip that switch on things, which I do know is difficult, but like when you really try to focus on that, things can be so much better.
How did you learn to start to get really practice what you preach with this stuff? Because I think it's really like you have to take action with this stuff with your emotions.
You do.
Just be in reaction mode, right? You have to respond to them. What are some like basic steps that people can take, you know, so they don't maybe have to go to the Reiki session, you know?
Right.
You know?
I think just finding some time. I know people don't have time to necessarily do it every day, but really finding some time, even if it's like a couple days a week or whatever, even if it's an hour, half an hour, 15 minutes, to just really like shut your eyes and kind of like let everything go. And that I think people have a really difficult time with too, because your mind starts racing. So it's kind of learning how to pull everything. So I kind of try to envision, even before I do a Reiki session for people, I know I've got a lot of stuff going on too, whether it's my family, my job, I'll like envision like all those things kind of just being taken away, even if it's like in a little bubble. Here they go, like one at a time, everything's going to just kind of like, I'll get back to it. I'm not going to deal with any of that at this moment. It's all going to be there when I'm done. But for now, let's just focus really like on your different chakras, like one at a time, and like bringing that breath down through, kind of connecting to the earth. It takes time. A lot of people have a hard time with it.
Yeah, I always found, well, you hear this, like, the breath work it seems like it's so important because it's, what's the word? Prana, it's the life force. It's like the center of everything. Like, it's like one of the first things you do when you enter this life. Why is the breath so important in all these different, whether it's like yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, Reiki, why is the breath so valuable in these practices?
For me, I mean, even with boxing, we're breathing, it's releasing. I think because it can almost be a visual, not just, like a mental vision, but I feel like you feel it. It's something we have control over. I think that's a big part of it too. Like really focusing on that allows you to envision it, slow it all down. And it touches like every part of you.
How did you get into this practice? Because it's not, even though I think it's definitely catching fire more than it was, I mean, I don't know, 30 years ago or something. I wasn't around then, but it seems like now it's really catching fire, all these like meditation. How did you get into this? And was it hard because of the, people always seem to be like, I don't know about that, like the skeptics and stuff.
Yeah. So I was just going through a kind of a difficult time, and somebody had suggested that I take their Reiki session, and I had no idea what Reiki was. I was like, what is that? So unknowingly I went in, and I had a wonderful practitioner, and I couldn't believe the stuff that happened while I was in there. All of the releases, it just blew my mind. And afterwards, for some reason, I was so drawn to it. I kept getting certified for the next level and the next level. I really didn't know that I was going to do it with other people. And for something inside me just said, start practicing Reiki. And I did. It's weird. It's like, once you let go of so many things, like when you let go of the negative and shut doors on the negative, the positive happens, and other things, like the new doors open up for you. I am such a believer in that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what kind of led me on this path.
For my I'm only 21, but I've come to notice that the more you tap into, like whatever, Reiki meditation, it just taps into this, what I call source energy, wherever all of us come from. It's almost like you're going into just being and existing. And it seems like the more you tap into like your intuition and your heart and your purpose, it seems like almost like it allows you to kind of go with the flow of life, and things that you've always wanted seems to come your way.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's counterintuitive to what we've been taught, because we've been taught that to get stuff, you have to manipulate, matter through matter. But it's almost like diving into, I don't want to go on this path, it's almost diving into like the quantum physics and reality really works. And it seems like there's all these new groundbreaking researchers that are uncovering this stuff. But like, I think it makes life way more inspiring and like connective and really cool. What are did you go through any of those synchronicities when you started like opening up to this side of yourself?
Yeah, I definitely did. There was a lot going on. I know like what you were saying earlier about like people like not really believing in it. So it's like promoting it, but we are lucky because right now we are in that time where it is kind of being promoted. Mm-hmm. But still there's other stuff, When I do Reiki with people, like I said, I get visions, I get almost like messages. I can connect with people on other levels that I still am like, when it all first started happening, I was like, what is going on? But I don't fight it. The more you fight it, then it closes off. So if you just kind of accept it and go with it and trust it, because everybody has it. Everybody has their intuition. Everybody has this, ability to kind of tap in. But so many of us don't use it. It's that inner voice telling you, like, when you forget you forget something at home and you're like, oh, I'll just take care of it later, even though you should do it. And then it kind of bites you in the butt later. Like, that's your inner voice talking to you. And we don't always listen to that.
Is Reiki and all these, I call them just like Eastern ways of medicine healing.
Yeah.
See that the Eastern philosophy and the Western philosophy of medicine combining, or do you see that more? I don't know, like, you're not like through a hospital, but what do you think the chances are of those merging in the near future?
I think eventually it will be more and more prominent, because people are tired of, taking pills all the time. Right. I think, like you had said, you were reading Becoming Supernatural, and it's almost like putting the scientific in with, the unknown. And when you see actual results, like I think that's what is going to have to happen. Like, people need to see more results in order to kind of like shift in that direction. Think about it. Before, acupuncture was never accepted under health insurance, and now it is. I think that all of these elements will be, at some point, more and more people opening up to it. And I think that's going to be the demand. I hope so,
I do too. I also think it just becomes a way of life, kind of. And I feel like although you as a Reiki healer are healing others, I think it shows that it empowers people to take the initiative to do that for themselves, because I feel like on some level, you have control of your thought. I feel like people just let their thoughts ramble, or they don't, like we kind of talked earlier. So yeah, I think it's so cool. What's something that you you find really fascinating about your work that always just gets you going? You love it. Like, is it the feeling of healing someone? Is it what really resonates you with your work and what you like about it?
I love how people feel after. I know how much it helped me. And when I have a new client that I've never met before or whatever, and they come in and they're like, wow, I never expected that, or I've never relaxed like that in so long. It's almost, it's just like this incredible, it's just so good. I can't explain it. It's, and I know I'm not essentially doing the healing, but Reiki works both ways. When you give Reiki and you're with a client, it goes both ways. So I'm receiving the Reiki the same time the client is. So it's, Reiki is whatever you need at that time. So every time you come in, it's going to be completely different. I have clients that come in frequently, and the first session is nothing like it is 5 sessions later. And even then people learn how to relax too. And I recommend everybody to get Reiki 1. The more healers we have in this country, the better off we're all going to be.
What are some misconceptions about Reiki? Because Reiki's can't cure everything, right?
Right.
So
right.
If what are some things that people should maybe see an actual physician for, rather than going to see a Reiki practitioner?
I think I always tell people, if they have, some serious issues going, like cancer, for example. I do get people that come in that have cancer, and I say, right off the get, this is not going to cure any of that. It's to help you get into a more meditative state. Anything that you feel you need to see the doctor, definitely. I love the Reiki part of it because, like I said, when it has to do with energy and shifting all of that, what we talked about before, how that type of stuff can affect us like internally, but like it doesn't, I don't want people to think they're going to come in and get Reiki and be like, oh, you know, my elbow is cured. You know,
Right.
I broke it and now it doesn't, now it's, you know, it's not like that. It's always when in doubt, see the doctor. You know, there's no question about that.
I know like certain books and authors have really helped me like combine a lot of stuff. Like, what are some books that have really resonated with you that you think people out there should read? And it doesn't even have to do with Reiki, just in terms of like optimizing their life.
Right. So you talked about that one with Dr. Dispenza, Becoming Supernatural. I love that book. I think too, like that's one of the ones that combines that, you know, the unknown with the known, the scientific part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I just started to get into grounding and earthing. I don't know if you know anything about that. And I think that's pretty cool too.
Mm-hmm.
Go bare feet.
Mm-hmm. Why is that? Because I just watched, I think there's a grounding doc, it's called Grounding or something like that.
Yeah.
Why is that so important? Because you hear about like Native Americans, they'll always be barefoot. And you're like, what's the point? You know, we're supposed to have shoes. You know, I don't want to step on a rock. Like, why is it?
It's true, but I feel like it's again pulling us out back to nature. And you know, we're so closed in, we're so stressed out. It's just a way to connect and get the energy even from the earth, which we all know there is energy. Everything has energy. So I think it connects on so many different levels. If you can get out and work in the yard, or, you know, like you said, walk barefoot. It's magical, actually. I mean, we used to do it when we were little. I mean,
Right.
I know I always did. And I think about like when you were little running around barefoot, like it feels good.
Mm-hmm.
Or when you go to the beach, you know,
Yeah.
it's important to be part of nature. And so many of us aren't anymore. We're so busy, like, you know, trying to get work done and drive here and drive there, which I understand, but you know, everybody can take a few minutes that we can get outside.
Yeah, for sure. I think like when you do, I don't know, it's like you're tapping into that part of yourself that is that childhood self that I almost feel like one of the purposes I feel like in life is just always get back to that, because that, like when you're a child, you know, you don't have a care in the world. You're in the complete, like, it's almost like you're in complete like bliss and joy. It's not like, but it's like how to tap into that. And like you said, there's nature. I think that another thing to do is just doing like, more grounding work, getting in tune with who you are, because I think everybody has innate gifts and attributes to them that make them unique. And I think it's so important to figure out who you are primarily, because I think when you really do that and don't just, you know, do stuff mindlessly and do things that what success is for other people, that may not be for you. And like, have you found that going down this path, your life feels like maybe more fulfilled, or like
Absolutely.
purpose in waking up?
Absolutely. I think when you say like finding yourself, I think it's so difficult for some people. There's so many layers to get through, you know, especially the older we get. You know, if somebody had told me 10 years ago I was going to be teaching boxing classes and giving Reiki, I would have said, you're absolutely crazy. I do neither of those things, you know, but here I am, like starting everything all over at 50, and it's amazing. I wished I had known all of this stuff at your age, because I look at somebody like you and it blows my mind that you're tapped into this stuff already. You know, and I feel like there was parts of my life where I was, but I was, you know, you just cover it up and you just keep going and you don't really pay attention to it. So yeah, I mean, you got to get under those layers and figure things out, but, and acceptance of everything you've been through, good or bad. You know, some experiences are, you know, not so great, but it's okay. Everybody has them, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got a couple minutes left here, but what I said is if you'd like to leave the audience with one thing, maybe a big lesson that you learned in your life, in your journey to where you are now, what's something you'd like to leave the audience with?
My biggest thing is, I think, what I had said earlier, it's so important to really realize that many things that we go through in life are really to help other people along the way as well, not just ourselves. It's about community, it's about friends and family, and my experience can maybe help you help somebody else, and being part of all of that.
I love that because it's so true. And I think I think it's so easy to just be nice, and we forget, I don't know, we have to have the courage within ourselves. Like you said in the beginning, I think self-love is so important, because if you can love yourself, you can actually have the energy to be nice and have a smile. Like growing up in school, there'd be certain, either my friends or a teacher, he or she would always have a smile on their face. I'm like, why can't I do that?
Yeah.
But I think it is kind of what we talked about, and what you touched upon is, like, you have to go deep within yourself, figure out what's pulling you from doing that. And then once you reach that, and it's the stuff we're talking about, it's so cool because it's beyond the five senses.
Yeah.
But just trying to get more people aware of that. But thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
We need more people like you out doing the work you do and just helping others. And I love the work you do. So thank you. And
thank you.
If someone wants to contact you, how can they reach out to you?
I do have a website, but honestly, like, my email is probably the best. Amy Lynn, AMYLYNNE 1212 @gmail.
All right. Thank you once again for coming on.
Thank you.
Have a great day, guys. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.